Welcome to this video where we explore 10 devastating facts about the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, one of the deadliest natural disasters in recent history. On December 26, 2004, a massive earthquake triggered a tsunami that changed countless lives forever. Fact 1. This tsunami was one of the deadliest disasters in modern history. It claimed an estimated 227,000 to 230,000 lives, with some estimates even higher, when including those missing and never found. Entire communities were wiped out in seconds, leaving a deep scar on the world that is still remembered today. Fact 2. The earthquake that released the energy of 23,000 atomic bombs. On December 26, 2004, a massive undersea earthquake struck off the west coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. This earthquake measured between 9.1 and 9.3 in magnitude, making it the third most powerful ever recorded since 1900 and the strongest ever in Asia. Scientists estimate that the energy released by this earthquake was equal to 23,000 atomic bombs, like the one dropped on Hiroshima, exploding all at once. The earthquake ruptured a fault line about 1,300 to 1,600 kilometers long, roughly the distance from London to Rome. Along this rupture, the seabed was violently lifted in some places by as much as 15 meters, or 50 feet. This massive movement was so intense that it caused the entire planet to shake by up to 1 centimeter, and even triggered smaller earthquakes as far away as Alaska. Fact 3. Tsunami waves traveled as fast as jet airliners. The earthquake's immense power pushed a vast amount of water, creating tsunami waves that raced across the Indian Ocean at incredible speeds. These waves traveled up to 800 kilometers per hour, which is about 500 miles per hour, as fast as a jet airliner. While moving over the deep ocean, the waves were not very tall and often went unnoticed by ships. But as they approached shallow coastal areas, their speed slowed down and their height grew dramatically. In some of the worst hit places, like Aceh province in Indonesia, the waves reached heights of up to 30 meters, nearly 100 feet tall, taller than a 10-story building. These massive walls of water surged several kilometers inland, destroying everything in their path and leaving behind scenes of total devastation. Fact 4. Aceh, Indonesia, suffered the highest death toll of any single region, with over 170,000 people killed or missing. This fact highlights just how devastating the tsunami's impact was on communities closest to the earthquake's epicenter. The waves struck within minutes, giving almost no warning and leaving residents no time to escape. Entire villages were destroyed and families were separated or lost in the chaos. The scale of loss was so immense that in many places, bodies were never recovered and survivors faced overwhelming grief. The destruction also included critical infrastructure, like hospitals and schools, compounding the tragedy. This staggering human cost in Aceh alone represents a tragic chapter in the disaster's overall impact, illustrating the extreme vulnerability of coastal populations to sudden natural catastrophes. Fact 5. The 2004 tsunami displaced an estimated 1.7 to 2 million people across affected countries, creating one of the largest humanitarian crises in recent history. Entire communities were rendered uninhabitable as homes, schools, and businesses were destroyed by the waves and flooding. Survivors were forced into temporary shelters, refugee camps, or had to relocate far from their original homes. Among those most affected were thousands of children who lost their parents or became separated from their families amid the chaos. This mass displacement created long-term challenges, including the need for food, clean water, medical care, and psychological support. Many displaced families struggled to rebuild their lives, often facing poverty and uncertainty for years after the disaster. The scale of displacement underscored how the tsunami didn't just take lives, it tore apart the social and economic fabric of entire regions. Fact 6. Women and children were disproportionately affected, with women dying at rates up to 4 times higher than men in some areas. This heartbreaking fact reveals how social roles and circumstances increased vulnerability during the tsunami. Many women were at home, caring for children or working near the shore when the waves struck, limiting their chances to escape quickly. Children's smaller size and physical strength made them especially vulnerable to the powerful currents and debris. This tragic imbalance highlighted how disasters often impact certain groups more severely due to factors like location, responsibilities, and physical ability. The lessons learned from this have since influenced disaster response plans worldwide, aiming to better protect those most at risk during emergencies. Fact 7. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami caused massive economic and environmental damage, estimated at nearly $10 billion in losses. Over 141,000 homes were destroyed, along with critical infrastructure such as roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals. Coastal communities that relied heavily on fishing and farming faced devastating blows, with fishing fleets wiped out and farmland flooded by salt water, making it unusable for years. In Aceh province alone, over 600,000 people lost their jobs because their livelihoods were destroyed. Environmentally, vital ecosystems like mangrove forests and coral reefs, which serve as natural coastal barriers, were severely damaged or destroyed. Saltwater contamination of freshwater supplies and farmland created long-term challenges for recovery and food security. The enormous amount of debris left behind also posed ongoing environmental hazards and made cleanup efforts incredibly difficult. Fact 8. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami had a global reach, affecting countries thousands of kilometers from the epicenter. Waves caused by the tsunami traveled across the entire Indian Ocean, reaching as far as the eastern coast of Africa. Tragically, people died in places like South Africa, nearly 8,000 kilometers away from where the earthquake struck. The disaster happened during the peak holiday season. So many international tourists were visiting popular coastal resorts in Thailand, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. Thousands of these tourists lost their lives, including over 500 Germans and a similar number of Swedish visitors. For several nations, this became one of the deadliest disasters involving their citizens abroad in recent history. This widespread impact highlighted just how far-reaching the tsunami's deadly power truly was, turning it into a global tragedy felt around the world. Fact 9. One of the most tragic aspects of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was the lack of an effective warning system. Unlike the Pacific Ocean, which had a well-established tsunami warning network, the Indian Ocean had almost no early warning infrastructure at the time. This meant that coastal communities received little to no advance notice before the waves struck. In some places farther from the epicenter, like Sri Lanka and India, people had several hours between the earthquake and the tsunami's arrival, but still weren't warned. Closer to the epicenter, such as in Sumatra, the time between the earthquake and the first waves was often just 10 to 20 minutes, leaving almost no time to react. This critical failure in disaster preparedness contributed greatly to the high death toll and devastation. It showed the urgent need for better warning systems to protect vulnerable coastal populations from future tsunamis. Fact 10. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami triggered an unprecedented global humanitarian response that changed how the world handles such disasters. In the aftermath, over $14 billion were pledged by governments, charities, and individuals worldwide to support relief efforts and rebuilding. Emergency teams from across the globe rushed to affected areas, despite massive challenges like destroyed roads, bridges, and isolated communities. This tragedy also led to the creation of the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System, designed to detect future tsunamis and issue timely alerts. Beyond technology, it sparked a global focus on disaster preparedness, public education about tsunami warning signs, and building stronger infrastructure in vulnerable coastal zones. The disaster highlighted how international cooperation and preparedness can save lives in future catastrophes. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami remains one of the most devastating natural disasters in modern history. Its impact stretched far beyond the immediate destruction, touching millions of lives with loss, trauma, and lasting challenges. While the scale of the tragedy was overwhelming, it also sparked a global response that brought new awareness, improved warning systems, and stronger disaster preparedness around the world. The stories of survival, resilience, and recovery continue to inspire, reminding us of both nature's power and human strength. As we remember this event, it's important to carry forward the lessons learned and remain vigilant in protecting vulnerable communities from future catastrophes. The legacy of the tsunami is a call to action, one wise so, to prepare, to support, and to never forget.